So welcome to this live training we're doing here. So we wanted to do something very special because of all the crazy stuff going on in the world right now. This should be primarily Amazing Selling Machine members here, but maybe some people invited non-members, other Amazon sellers, other e-commerce people, and so we're more than happy to have you here. So the reason we wanted to do this is because we know a lot of people, there's a lot of misinformation going on about what's happening with Amazon, how people are performing right now. And there's also potentially a lot of opportunities, with a lot of people now essentially being stuck at home. We're seeing a lot of people that are seeing sales increase right now because more people are buying stuff online that they may have bought locally, or maybe they just have more time to do some shopping. But then there also is, a general amount of fear and uncertainty, which can cause general purchasing to go down. So what we did is we found some people inside of our community that have great businesses selling on Amazon. They really know what they're doing and they love to help people. And so we brought them on here to each give their own perspective in terms of what's going on with their businesses right now, what are they seeing, what are the opportunities, and is there anything else they'd like to share with people, based on their perspective? Because a lot of these people that we have here today are very plugged into Amazon seller communities. So if you're kind of running your business from your house, you don't talk to a lot of other Amazon sellers, you're not really sure what's going on, then this is a perfect spot for you. Now, everyone who's here right now is hearing my voice. Not really going to apply to you, but we are going to have a replay in case you have to drop off early. We'll try to email it out to everyone, and we are going to post it to our YouTube channel. So if you just search Amazing.com on YouTube, you'll find our YouTube channel. And hopefully later today, it'll be the most recent video that we release on there. So we are going to have a replay. We wanted to make sure as many people as possible get this message so that you can build the best business possible right now. So a few things before we go ahead and get started. A little bit of update of what's happening at Amazing with all this, in case you're wondering. We've had to push back a couple of smaller workshops. We were doing a smaller workshop for Amazon sellers for some new ASM members here. I believe it was supposed to be next month. And as you can imagine, with all the restrictions, we've had to basically postpone that. We were also doing one, a bit of a mastermind for people wanting to scale on Shopify. We've also had to push that back to June. So those weren't going to be super big because we kind of kept them small in size, but that is what it is. With live event stuff, it's really tough right now. Now, as far as SellerCon, if you bought a ticket to SellerCon or thinking about coming to SellerCon, that's not till July. And so none of us knows exactly what's going to happen between now and then, but we're still hopeful and confident that the event is going to go on with no problem inside of July. I think we'll have a lot more clarity next month. You could still go buy a ticket. It's still open, all that sort of stuff if you want to, but we're not really pushing that right now because we're hoping some of this stuff sorts itself out over the next month or so. Should have more clarity there. We do have some backup plans in place, and we absolutely want to make sure, because we've already got all the speakers booked, everything, a lot of people signed up, and so we want to do anything we possibly can to make sure that event happen, and we are going to do that. But yeah, we'll have more updates next month, hopefully when we have some more clarity on the situation. So that's a little bit about us. In general, some advice. So like later on, after everyone does their thing, I've got a few things that I think every business should be doing right now, 5 things to help make your business stronger now and actually come out outside of this with a better business than you came in. So I'll share all that after we bring on our guests, just to make sure we're not holding them up too long. But a few things for you to think about right now in terms of dealing with this sort of massive change or any sort of change that's happening in business or life, I guess. A few principles that I think help me, and I've tried to develop in myself over the past, 3 years mainly, maybe 3-4 years. This first one is get the facts. A lot of times if you drown yourself in social media and news, you're getting a very skewed view and likely a not very informed view and pretty biased of what's going on. So do your best job to get the facts of the situation, which is part of the reason why we wanted to do this, because we're getting on the ground information from people that are actually running businesses. And I hope that some of them disagree with each other, because then you get a more well-rounded view of what's going on rather than just one person's opinion. If you only listen to one side of news, and I'm not going to call either side out, but if you only listen to one side of news, you're going to get a very skewed view. So if nothing else, try to listen to both sides and try to get the actual facts of the situation, and not just the coronavirus, but what's happening on Amazon, how are sales performing, what's actually happening with Amazon's fulfillment and all that sort of stuff, which we're going to talk about next. So the first step is to actually get the facts, not just let irrational sort of fear lead to bad decisions, because we all have these innate fight or flight instincts that can cause really bad decisions, and especially in business, because business is more of a, in my opinion, sort of cerebral game that requires rational decision making. So your first step to make good business decisions is get the facts. And second thing is to focus on what you can control. There's a lot of stuff going on right now that we don't have any control over whatsoever, and it sucks. It's no good. But what you can do that I think helps alleviate some of that frustration and maybe fear is focusing on what you can control, which is a lot of what we're going to talk about today, is what are the things you can do in your business right now that may or may not work, but at least it's better than focusing all day on stuff that you have no control over whatsoever. How can you improve your business now? How can you prepare for what may be coming next? How can you prepare if things keep slowing down, or how can you take advantage if things end up picking back up pretty soon? What are the things you can improve about your business right now that are going to help you now and in the future? A much better place to put your focus than all the stuff that's going on that you don't have any control over. And last thing is finding the opportunities. It's very easy to see all the problems, and there is good wisdom in focusing a lot on risk mitigation in general, but especially when things are going bad, and also when things are going good. But force yourself to focus on the opportunities. If you had to come up with something that was good in this situation for you or your business, what is it? Forcing yourself to think about that will help you see stuff that you may not be seeing right now. So take those things, use them while we're talking here, while we bring on our extra guests that are giving you good advice and perspective in terms of what's happening in their business. And yeah, congratulate you. Thank you very much for showing up here. I don't know, you probably got, crazy family life, you're stuck at home, you probably got kids running around like a lot of people right now. And so I really appreciate you all showing up here to improve yourself, to grow your business. And we're also going to be doing some live Q&A. So if you have any questions, we'll try to get to those at the end. And we told the guests they don't have to stick around, and a lot of us can answer a lot of these questions. But if you have a question for a specific guest, then go ahead and ask it in the Q&A panel, and we'll get to all those at the end once again, so we're not sort of holding everyone up. But that's really it for me. Like I said, whenever we get done with all the guests, then I'll be giving a few things that I think every business should be doing, but I wanted to respect their time and let them come on first. But first up, we have Rich Henderson.
Right. So yeah, thanks, Matt. Yeah. So I just want to talk a little bit about Amazon, like during this current world situation, because let's face it, the world is in a pretty crazy place right now. But as you're going to hear from our guests, the ceiling has definitely not fallen in when it comes to Amazon sellers. We've seen some decrease in sales, not a lot, but a lot of our members are actually seeing significant increases. What you have to bear in mind is no matter what the situation is in the world, people still need to shop. And the more the USA and the UK get locked down, in other words, you're not particularly allowed out of the house or to go anywhere or anything like that, then there's obviously so few options you have left to shop except to shop online. Amazon is without a doubt the biggest store there is online, and they're preparing for this. At the end of the day, they are a mega company. They're also mega smart. It's quite funny looking around on the internet, people calling them all the names under the sun, and for something that I will talk about the block on shipments and stuff. And it's like they're basically criticizing Amazon for this and like giving them a hard time and saying they're out to make money. And yeah, sure, they're out to make money, but like there's more to it than that. They're not going anywhere. At the end of the day, they'll probably come out of this even better, even stronger, because so many people now that might not have used them so much in the past, they're going to start using them even more because they don't have any options. They've basically got, a captive audience. So it's a simple equation at the end of the day. It's like more buyers, in other words, more people on Amazon is going to equal more sales. And yes, right now, the priority is going to be more, emergency essentials, people buying masks or sanitizer and stuff like that, but a bunch of other stuff too. But once this crisis starts moving forward and like it, gets to the point where there is a lockdown, then people are going to be buying other stuff. I was talking to someone, I can't remember who it was today, the other day, and she said that she'd been on Amazon because she wanted to try and get some sanitizer, I think it was. And then she's found like 5 things that were in a shopping cart that she hadn't actually bought before, that were just sitting there, and she bought all 5 of them. So, it's like people also are going to be bored. Me, when I get bored, I tend to buy stuff. So the demand's going to be there. There's absolutely no doubt. And, it'll be interesting to see what the stats are like, because I can easily envisage traffic going up on Amazon. But interestingly enough, actually, Dan just pointed out to me, the reason I'm probably having a really bad internet is because everyone now is sat in their house online. So it's killing all the ISPs. But anyway, moving forward, the one big thing, and I kind of touched on it there, that has happened was the block Amazon have placed, specifically on some categories, not all. And that block is in creating shipping plans. You've seen it. You've seen all the doom and gloom people saying this is the end of the world. It's going to put thousands and thousands of sellers out of business, all this kind of stuff. But it's just not true. Okay. It's not that much of a disaster right now, and there's no need to panic. We've been talking to a lot of sellers, the guys on this call, a lot of other sellers too, in contacts. And the general consensus is that this is a short-term thing that Amazon have done intentionally to allow themselves breathing space. So it's not just about making sure all the critical stuff that people really need right now is in stock, and all their employees are working hard on those specific products. It's also giving them breathing space to figure out how they're going to deal with this moving forward. Because if they shut down, this might scare you a little bit, but it shouldn't. They shut down a fulfillment center just this morning, I think, because they had 2 cases. But what's happening in that case, they're shutting it down, they're sending everyone home, and then they're doing, I forgot what they call it, like a big clean or something. So they're going in there, doing whatever they need to do to get rid of the virus inside the workplace, and then people will come back in. They've just put out adverts everywhere. I think they're hiring something like 100,000 members of staff to help cope with this. So this break to me is about giving them time to organize this. So they will probably have, people on standby all the time to go in and jump in when they need them and that kind of thing. So to me, it just looks like Amazon are being smart. And don't forget, this is just specific categories. We've got we actually put an article, I think I put it in Facebook too, covering the categories for first, because when this first was announced, I have to admit, Amazon did not specify that it was certain categories. It was carte blanche and everyone panicked, which is fair enough. But it's not. In fact, the only big category that is affected by this is, I think it's home and kitchen, or whatever that's called now, but kitchen and dining too. But again, I see them releasing this really quick. We talked to loads of people and everyone was panicking. And the 5th of April is only, 10 days away. So whatever situation is, that's 10 days where you just have to try and figure out what you're going to do moving forward if it gets extended. And if it gets extended, we don't see it going beyond another week or 2 weeks. But we've got some specific scenarios. I'm going to run through them really quickly because we've obviously got a limited amount of time and we've got a lot of super guests on here and you're probably more interested in listening to them. And again, if you don't catch all this, there is a replay and it's also in the community and it's also in Facebook. But scenario 1 is, for beginners out there, you've not ordered your inventory yet. This has 0 effect on you if you haven't ordered your inventory yet. By the time you ordered their inventory and they've manufactured it for you and they get ready to ship it, this situation, and I don't mean Corona, I mean the actual situation at Amazon, will be over. So, you're in a good position. You're still looking for your product, you haven't ordered your inventory. Don't even think about this. It's not a concern. Second scenario, if you're about to place your inventory, again, you shouldn't have to worry too much. You should be fine. As again, it's going to be a while before your inventory is going to be ready. We are guessing, and it's an educated guess, we have talked to a lot of people, that this might run to sort of mid or even the 3rd week in April. There's no way on earth you're going to order your inventory, from China. It's going to be here in time anyway. So it's probably going to have gone. Matt, you can still hear me okay, right? I keep saying.
Yep, I can hear you. I was just pulling up the article that you were talking about.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so again, don't worry about it. Now, if you've ordered your inventory and it's almost ready to ship, then obviously you do need to take a look. But first of all, check that your product, check your situation. So many people going, oh, it's all over. And have you tried to create a shipping plan for your product? And they went, no. Well, go and try it then. And they try it and there's no problem. So the first thing is, if you're ready, then try and create a shipping plan and see what happens. As I said, a lot of the bigger categories are fine anyway. So you don't need to worry that much. If not, and you're using a freight forwarder, which if you follow the ASM training, you should be anyway, ask them to store your inventory in their warehouse. They're aware of this situation. We've already had multiple people speak to their freight forwarders and they're like, absolutely, we understand the situation. We'll get the inventory to America, which is obviously the ultimate goal here, because you can ask your supplier to store it. But then when all of a sudden, you're allowed to create your shipping plan, excuse me, it's 2 weeks away again. But if you get your freight forwarder to ship it and they'll store it in their warehouse for them, then when this gets lifted, you can have your inventory in Amazon within a couple of days. Every freight forwarder I know will do this for you. Obviously, there might come a point when all their warehouses are full. So if you're in that situation now, get in touch with your freight forwarder right now and ask them. Scenario 4, you've ordered your inventory to restock. So in other words, this isn't a new product. You're already selling this product and you're ordering more inventory. So if you're going to run out of stock before that arrives, then you've got different options. First of all, if you live in the USA or the UK, if you're selling in the UK and have space, have it shipped to your house. So again, for the same reasons, when Amazon open everything up again, you can ship it there in a couple of days. Or again, you can use your freight forwarder to store it. A third option, and I want to stress here, do not panic into using this third option because there's a downside to it. But the third option is to use a 3PL company. And basically what that means is you ship the inventory to them, you switch your product on Amazon from FBA to FBM, and then they will fulfill the orders that come through. A warning, I've seen everyone like, oh, that's all you need to do, go and do that, blah, blah, blah. You have to be 100% certain that the company you use are going to fulfill when they're meant to fulfill. You can actually select how long it takes to get there. Be conservative. It might hurt your conversion, but the one thing you do not want to do is have delayed shipping. The minute you start sending products to Amazon late through FBM, you're going to get penalized. You're going to start seeing your account, I forgot what it's called now, but your account health will start to drop, and that's a fatal thing. And just for the sake of keeping up and getting a few orders in or whatever, it's a big risk. So we are preparing a list of 3PL companies we either recommend or we've had recommended to us, and we will release that, but only do that as a last resort. It's, as I said, it's only sort of 8 days away or whatever it is for you to wait to the 5th and see what happens. And as soon as we know anything, we will let you know. Whether it's in Facebook or inside the community or even on our Amazon Facebook page, Amazing Facebook page, we will let you know. But don't panic into making a rash decision that could hurt you, because you don't want to lose, all that good ratings you've built up with Amazon directly as a company. You're probably doing a fantastic job. You're making loads of sales. You've got happy customers. Amazon are happy with you. You start messing with that because you're using a 3PL company that doesn't fulfill on time, or if you try doing it yourself.
He dropped out for me. Caleb, did he drop out for you too?
Yeah, I think he's dropped this side as well. Matt, I can pick up if you want.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I just want to touch on something real quick. So before you start, Dan, so if you wanted to, if you like, the point of these news sites is to drive as much traffic to their website so they make money off of ads. I mean, that's basically their entire business. So they'll create sensationalized headlines because that's their business. And so, like, if you just read the headline, it's like Amazon's going to stop accepting all products, and it makes you kind of get the idea that it's like, that's it, like they're done, like they're never going to allow you to ship in. But then if you read like sort of like nuances of the article, if like you keep scrolling down, you'll see that, like, first off, it's limited to a certain categories, and then also that it's until April 5th. I mean, their business is not going to like shut down. That's going to be terrible for them. They're just trying to prioritize the stuff that really needs to get to people right now. And so you've got to be careful if you're just reading the headlines. And that's the kind of stuff where it's like where I was talking about getting the facts. And the same thing with another article that I saw yesterday on CNBC, which is Amazon sellers are bracing for layoffs and worse. And if you read all the details, first off, a lot of the members that we have and people we know that sell on Amazon, their teams are very small. Like, they don't have a ton of employees. This is a pretty low overhead business. And we did a poll here, and something like 70% of people right now, either their sales have increased or they've seen no change or no drop in sales whatsoever because of all this. And so once again, CNBC, like all news sites, their whole thing is to generate as many clicks as possible so they make more money off of ads. So really try to get the facts when you're looking at this stuff, and just focus on, like I said, like what you control. But yeah, Rich gave you a good overview of the situation. So yeah, go for it, Dan.
Hey guys, hey people. Just to pick up on what Matt was saying there and piggyback on what Rich said a little bit. The power of thinking accurately. Matt, you're so right about this. Like, there's so much fear mongering and news sources from an uneducated position. And then when you actually think about the current position, how it affects you accurately, it's nowhere near as scary or as outrageous as the media or the social media fear mongers like to make out. They're just sat there projecting their own fear from their position. This whole thing about the warehouses closing, if you're running a 60 to 90-day inventory sort of strategy, you're an established seller, your inventory is well stocked, then you're more than likely going to see this period through anyway. If you were planning to launch during this period, my understanding is that Amazon is still receiving those shipments that were already created. They're just not letting you create new ones. And if you were going to go ahead and create a new shipment, well, you know what? You've got to wait a couple of weeks. So I really don't see it being a big issue as that sort of people are blowing up in the industry about. I really don't think it's that big. Now, Corona as a whole picture and the effect it's going to have on the economy and where this is all heading, yes, for sure, we're going to have to sort of pivot our approach to this business and how we manage and approach it. But even with that, we must remember to always think accurately and face all these challenges with optimism. Many people in this situation are going to cripple with fear and get paralyzed with that fear and pull back on their goals, pull back on their plans because they're scared to make a decision, because they're scared of what might happen in the current circumstances. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag on the poll around the sales stats, but across all the categories we're involved in, and we're across most categories, yes, we're seeing some categories are down a bit, we're seeing some of the same, and we're seeing some massive gains in categories like yoga as people are looking to stock up at home and still carry on that practice even though they're not allowed to leave the house. So I'd be interested to know if you drop in the chat box or whatever, where that's for you, specific to your category. But home and kitchen seems to be, in some categories, I've got friends that are doing 50, 60% more sales. The last few days, we're chatting here a second ago, seems to be a bit more turbulent since Amazon announced this news of stopping inbound shipments. That's been spun in the media, and consumers are saying, well, is Amazon still open for business? So there is going to be turbulence, but we have to weather this storm together, and we have to think accurately as we approach it all. So we remain positive, we think accurately, we weather the storm like Forrest Gump and Lieutenant Dan. We sail that shipping boat out to sea during the storm, we weather the storm, and then once this storm's passed, and it will pass, it might take a bit longer than expected, but it's a virus, it's going to come and go. We'll be out to sea ahead of our competitors, ready to fish. Now, with that analogy, it doesn't mean that we want to sort of cover our eyes, pretend like nothing's happening and just blindly continue in our current business strategy. We have to pivot. We have to apply the same tactics in our business, but under a different management strategy. You need to be tracking your data daily. You need to have a finger on the pulse in your business. You want to be tracking the market relevant to your category so you can adjust and tweak your position on inventory management. You need to be looking really hard at those PPC numbers and saying, is this generating a return on investment? Can I make my PPC more efficient? I'd be contacting China. Now China's sort of 80% back up and running, depending on where your factory is located. This is the time when you want to start pushing those payment negotiation conversations with your supplier and try and improve your cash flow in the company through getting better payment terms on existing products. That's not just price, but the down payment and the balance payment, and can you stretch that out a little bit? Have a look at your cost base. Are you paying for tools and softwares that you haven't used in 6 months? And can we get smart and make that a bit more efficient? So whilst we need to lead from the front, think accurately, face these challenges with optimism. It's funny, actually, I've got a tattoo on my arm that says learn to dance in the rain. We're going to dance in the rain together. You've also got to be a smart business owner and really now dial in the numbers, look at that data and adjust your strategy accordingly. If you were planning, you had this launch plan for 2020 and you had sort of, I don't know, 5, 10 SKUs on there that you're planning to launch over the next 12 months, this doesn't mean that you can't do that. Yes, the economy is going to take a bit of a downturn. Yes, there's going to be some turbulence, but in a downturn, there's always opportunity, and there will be products doing very well, as I'm sure we're about to find out. All you need to do is reassess the data, and as I went through in ASM 11 quite extensively, use that data to inform your decision making. You may find that the prioritization of those products that you're planning to launch now changes a little bit because the market conditions now lean themselves towards one type of product than another. One type of product may be in a luxury or a nice to have, or something that maybe is a bit higher priced. You might find now that you want to deprioritize that because it's not really in demand right now, and given the way the market's going, the economy's going, it's not really a necessity. Whereas you may have some products on there that are more commodities or everyday items that consumers and shoppers on Amazon are going to feel more comfortable purchasing online, because now they don't want to go to the shops to go and get that item, that you may prioritize up that chain. I saw some questions coming through around sort of, is China open for business? Are they shipping? Now you're going to hear varying mixed sort of feedback here. China is absolutely open. We've got 40, 50 plus agents on the ground in China, and then across Asia we've got even more than that. And our factories are back online. Some of them are running skeleton staff, but for the most part they're coming back online quite strong. Now distribution globally is obviously going to be affected with flights being grounded. Air freight's going to be more difficult in and out, but with sea shipments the channels are still open. There are definitely delays because of manning and all that sort of stuff, but the global trade is still moving and continues to move, and it's in everyone's interest for that to continue to happen, regardless of whether people are ill with corona or not. So remain positive with this, guys. Focus, remain positive, remain dedicated, stick to your plan, and think accurately about every decision you're making, and just be smart. Use the data. The market conditions are changing, you change with it, and you just apply the tactics to deliver the strategy. So yeah, that's it from me, Matt, really, just to sort of say that the strategy for the business, that's what changes. The tactics remain the same, and as a business owner you have to use that data. And as we're about to find out from our guests here on the call today, specifically what's happening in their brands, I think that we'll find that's the case.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks, Dan. And yeah, some of the things people don't realize, I've heard this before, and I was trying to pull a list of the companies, but it's some of the biggest companies in the world have been formed during significant downturns in the economy. For example, one is, I was just looking it up to confirm, but it's Procter and Gamble. You know, back in the day, I think it was during the Great Depression, you know, grocery stores going out of business, but then they realized, well, people are still going to need soap regardless of how well the economy is doing. So they were able to pursue new marketing avenues rather than cutting all their advertising spend. And, you know, they're one of the biggest companies in the world now. And there's also other massive brands, Microsoft, Disney, HP, that were all formed during massive downturns in the economy. I think part of the reason is that it forces you to be more efficient. And so when things do turn around, you're the most efficient company out there, and you're the one who didn't pull back everything whenever things were going bad. And then all of a sudden you have this massive head start over everyone else.
Yeah, there's a concept of responsibility, like your ability to respond to something. You can't, as you said at the start, Matt, you can't focus on what you can't control, but what you can always control is how you respond to the given situation. You get to choose how things affect us psychologically, mentally, and we have to maintain that positive mindset. You get to choose whether you sort of contract in fear or expand in defense. And that's what these companies like Disney, Microsoft, IBM, Burger King, all these companies started in these recessions because they saw the opportunity. And then you choose how to take advantage of that power. And that's where we are here today. I think the sellers that really sort of stiffen up that bottom lip, so to speak, as Eminem would say, and push forward, will be the ones that are here 6 to 12 months from now flourishing because they just pivoted their strategy in the current market conditions. I think it's really important.
100%. Okay, cool. So yeah, we're going to bring on a couple of our guests. So we've got David and Leah. If you can turn on your webcams, if that works.
Yeah, we started in 2014, and Leah and I did. I was working in medical sales, and Leah was a freelance graphic designer. And so we started what we call the Bring Daddy Home project because we had a daughter and realized that me being gone on the road in sales all the time just wasn't going to work, and wanted to prioritize us being together as a family. So that's when we started the Bring Daddy Home project and started the Amazon business. And then so we started that late 2014. Within 2 years, I was able to, in 2016, I was able to be home. And so we soon realized that around that time that we could sell these businesses. So a year and a half later, we sold both businesses that we had started, and then we started 3 more immediately. So we have 3 brands right now, and all 3 different categories, and we have 2 of those brands on the market for sale right now. And so that's we sold in 2017, so we're right at a little over 2 years. Is the end of 2017, so a little over 2 years that we since we started those, and then we have 2. So we have 2 on the market, and we're keeping 1 and selling it next year. So that's kind of how we got started and where we are today.
Quick question, Matt. We in order for our webcam to work, we have to restart the webinar software. Do you want us to just go without camera here?
Yeah, we can just go without the webcam. The audio is good. So yeah, I think we just go without the webcam.
Cool.
Okay. So yeah, so that flash forward to today, we've got the two brands that are up in the market. So as far as the coronavirus, I know one of the things that we were going to talk about is how the coronavirus is affecting things. So with the two brands for sale, what's interesting is each of our brands is growing in sales right now. One brand has a 400% increase. Another one has a 20% increase, or probably around 30%, I guess, if you count both channels that we're in with that one. And then the other brand has about 100% increase. And what's interesting is with them being for sale, we're selling partially based on like the last 6 months of performance, but also trying to get a higher multiple and a higher payout based on the next 6 months of projections. And so what we've done is, we had a lot of pressure on us to make sure we hit those projected numbers. Well, then crisis hits, and of course we're kind of sweating because we have about 5 buyers that are interested in putting an offer, and then you start to worry, what if we don't hit those projected numbers? But interestingly enough, the brands are all growing right now, and we've actually surpassed all of those projections. And so I guess for us, it's we've definitely seen an improvement and an increase in sales right now.
And why do you think that is? I mean, if they're all in all different markets, maybe there are different reasons for each one, but can you think of any reasons why?
Yeah, it's different. Well, some of them are things that that we didn't think of actually when we created the brands, and I guess that's one side note that I would say people can take away from. With hardship, you always want to learn. You look at things that you can learn from, and I would say right now is a great time to really take note on what Amazon is doing and really see what's happening. There's lots of tools you can look at, different categories and different things that maybe you're planning on launching in the future, and kind of see how it's affected right now. Because even though this is a different type of crisis right now, it's going to be very similar to like maybe other crises we might see in the future, like financial crises and resets, because we haven't had a reset in so long, and different recessions and things. So it's a good time to really take note on what's going on. We didn't think about any of that, obviously, when we created the brands. We were just trying to create good brands. And the reason that things have grown is because it just happens to be that these are things that in a time of crisis, I guess, that more people would want. And we're kind of surprised by some of them that people would want, would think that way. And so it's kind of interesting. So to answer your question, the reason sales are going up is because they're things that people, when they're trying to hunker down and trying to prepare, these are things that they would want to buy.
Okay, cool. Makes sense. So then, what are you doing now with your brand, or what do you think other people should do that, given the current situation? Like, is there anything different on, like, talking specifically about Amazon in terms of like how you're modifying your product listings, or how you're changing your advertising strategy on Amazon or off Amazon, or any of that kind of stuff to adjust to what's going on right now?
Well, I will let David speak to that, but I think for us, the first and most urgent matter is just making sure we reset our inventory projections. Obviously, when you have a 400% increase for one of our particular categories that we sell in, now we're like, okay, well, we were planning on having this product available for the rest of the summer, and now, we're increasing orders. So you see a lot of people that are panicking, like, they're pulling back. They're not ordering as much. Maybe they're looking not to, launch new products. Well, we're actually looking at, number one, not only increasing our sales. In fact, I just spoke to a supplier a couple days ago. We had a container coming in from China. I said, let's go ahead and make that 2 containers, which is an additional, I don't know, $50,000, $100,000 worth of inventory, because we want to have enough to last us till the end of the season. So we're recalculating inventory right now. And, people also, I think Dan touched on this as well. People really were freaking out about not being able to send inventory in. Well, a good strategy for us has always been to have, at least 30 to 60 days supplies of inventory in Amazon, regardless of what the selling environment is. So if you've, planned appropriately, you should already have that inventory in place. And so, it's what, 2 or 3 weeks that Amazon isn't accepting shipments. Well, you should already have that inventory in place. So when it does open up again on April 5th, you'll be ready to go. So we're planning for that. We're working with our warehouses to make sure that we have inventory ready to ship at that time. And then also, we're looking at, our product line and thinking about, what are some ways that maybe we were going to launch this product and now we're going to analyze the demand on Amazon, and maybe we're going to launch a slightly different product. Maybe, instead of a luxury product, we're going to launch a product that's more an everyday need for people. So there's some opportunities there, besides the obvious category, like if you want to launch a doomsday prepping brand, everybody and their mom's going to be trying to do that right now. But, it's less obvious opportunities where you can provide people value and you can provide them products that they would need during a time like this, and in planning for the future. As far as advertising strategy goes, and I'll let David speak to that.
Yeah, the real change that we've done with marketing was I've actually reduced some of our spend because things have been selling faster than we anticipated, and so we really didn't need to advertise as much. So on some of the more popular things that we're really having a hard time keeping in stock, I've just kind of turned off the advertising. There's not really a need for it, and things have continued to sell well. The one thing that I'm toying with right now is just using video in search and things like that. But that's not necessarily because of what's going on with like the crisis and things like that. I'm not specifically, changing keywords or changing things in the listing necessarily to try to appeal more to like, things that are going on. Really just not a lot of changes. If anything, in our email marketing, there's probably some changes there and kind of like how we speak to people about the products. If it's something that people are wanting to use, they're kind of hunkering down and they're wanting to kind of like not doomsday prepping, but they're preparing to maybe to have to, not be able to get to the store as often and things like that. And yeah, we're talking to them in a little bit more in that language, but there's a lot of marketing that, Facebook, for instance, it doesn't let you do a lot with, talking about the virus or anything like that. They put limits on all of that. They're definitely filtering all of that out. So you can't say coronavirus in an ad or something like that, and so we haven't really made a lot of large changes except for just reducing some of the ads.
Okay, cool. And I know you all are involved in the Titan community, which we'll talk a little bit later. But with the other people that you're working with, other Amazon sellers, I guess for kind of the last question is what advice are you giving other people selling on Amazon in terms of what they should do right now, and also, for the people that are listening right now?
Yeah, I would say the people that are in the room that you guys mentioned earlier that are maybe just launching, getting ready to launch their first products, getting ready to purchase their inventory or put in those orders, people that are newer, I think this is a really good example, as I mentioned earlier, whether it's financial crisis or whatever, to realize that the service-based businesses, some of the businesses that are really going to be hurt by this, some of the retail, some of the service-based like restaurants and places like that, there's probably, I get the question a lot, oh, is it too late to get into Amazon? Is it too late to sell online? Is it too saturated? I think this is a perfect example that there's no better time than to be selling online. As you see, when we can't get to stores, the online business is really our lifeline. And so that's something to keep in mind. I would say another thing to look at is look at the categories that Amazon is still allowing people to ship products in for these next couple of weeks. You've got baby, beauty, household,
Industrial and
supplies,
scientific.
industrial, scientific. That might be if you're developing a brand now, or if you're trying to pick your products still, or if you're wanting to expand a product line. Looking at how Amazon reacts during this time and what they're still allowing people to ship in, and that'll tell you two things. One, it'll tell you that that you'll still be able to send your orders in, and if you haven't completely developed your brand, or if you're looking for products to develop. But it tells you another thing, that during rough times, your products are going to have longevity. They're going to, they're not going to be hit as hard. And so that might help you to pick products, or to at least develop your pipeline around some of those things as well.
It's almost like Amazon's always given us BSRs so that we can do our product research, right? It's always been a great data miner for what's popular for products. At a micro level, well, now they're giving us this data at a macro level, and it's like, here are the categories that are always evergreen, always in demand. And so if you're at a point where you're searching for a product, this is an amazing time to see what products are really going to withstand the test of time.
And with that, I would say, there's no better investment than to invest in yourself. And so invest in yourself and invest in these businesses. If you look at the volatility of maybe, like, I think you said 8% of people was it an increase or a decrease?
No, he said 70% had an increase.
From the poll that you did at the beginning.
Yeah, 70% had, it was somewhere around 10% had an increase, like 60% or so had no change whatsoever, and then the other 30% saw a decrease.
Yeah, and so if you look at 30% of the people that are seeing a decrease, somewhat of a decrease with their online business, compared to the number of people that are seeing a decrease that are invested in the markets right now. This is a good place to invest your money in, and it's a better investment than the markets, because you're investing in yourself, and you have the ability to change things and to have more control over things than you do in markets. So I think that's one thing that I would want to push to people. If you're having doubts, and if you're not sure, especially if you're just starting out, look at the other types of businesses and look at the markets and different places that you can put your money in. This is a really good one that has that can really stand the test of time a lot better than some of the other types of investments.
And it just goes to show you that we've always been optimistic on Amazon. We think that Amazon's the greatest place to start a business, of course, but it's reinforced that for us now more than ever, because Amazon's only gonna grow from this. One of the most difficult things for people is to change their habits, and this situation is forcing people to change their habits from going to the store to shopping online. And so when this is all over and we all get back into the world, people are still going to see, oh, that was so easy just to order that on Amazon, and Amazon's marketplace is going to grow.
Yeah. One thing I'll touch on what Dan said earlier too is that, and I totally agree with, is that this is if you already have a supplier, and if maybe you're a seller that's been doing it for a little while, or maybe you already have your products and you're selling, it's a great time, as he said, to renegotiate terms. It's a great time, regardless of what type of business you're in. Whether you're, have a retail store, you can renegotiate your rent agreements and stuff. It's a really good time. Times like these are great times to renegotiate, and that's definitely something as far as like terms with your suppliers and things, that they're going to be really understanding, and they don't want to lose you as a client. So it's a great time to have those difficult conversations, because they'll understand now more than they will later on.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, a lot of times, too, those, like, when you make those negotiations, they're semi-permanent. They're not just for now. It's like, if you're able to negotiate it now, then typically you can keep that going for a long time. It's not just a temporary thing. So it's almost like a permanent cash improvement for your business.
Yeah, if they give you something, it's really difficult for them to ever take it away,
Yep, for sure. Yeah, well, awesome. Thanks, David and Leah. I really appreciate you all coming on here, sharing your perspective. So thank you very much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Cool. So next up, we want to bring on Justin and Channing Dyson, another members of ours. So cool. Yeah, welcome, Justin and Channing. I'll turn on my webcam in a second. But yeah, if you could just give a quick overview of of a bit of your background so people know where you're coming from.
Hey everybody, I'm Justin. This is my wife Channing. So thanks for having us on. We've been selling on Amazon for about 5 years now, and really kind of the reason we came on today is, as everyone else has been talking about, just kind of the impact of the coronavirus and things like that. But just to give you guys a little bit of a background on kind of what we've been doing. So to everyone's point that talked earlier, though, and this is kind of the basis of what I want to talk about, is you may have heard before, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. And we're seeing this to be true, especially right now. And it doesn't matter if you're trying to grow because your business is booming as a result of what's going on, or it's struggling because now you need to actually have some cash saved up to make it through. So it's kind of interesting, I think, to me, to see how, regardless of where you're trying to go, the same thing holds true. You need to have some cash and you need to prepare for things like this. And one of the things that we're seeing, especially now, is that it's forcing people to actually make those good business decisions and things like that. But I'll let you kind of give everyone a background of what we do and where we're at.
Yeah, so we have been selling on Amazon since 2014, like Justin said, about 5 years. The reason we got started, we were 23 at the time, really floundering, trying to figure out how to pay bills, and same kind of thing. We had a 3-year-old at home and really wanted Justin to have a more free schedule to be home and not have to work a 9 to 5. So for us, this really gave us that. And how did we get to where we are today? I would say really just stick to it and push through. We've had little hiccups along the way. We'll just count this as another little hiccup that we're going to push through. That's anytime you own your own business, things happen and you have to be prepared for that as well. And we have continued to just launch products and stay the course. So for us, I've had a lot of family members and friends ask, oh my goodness, I bet this thing with China has really affected you guys. And I love being able to say, no, business is still booming. So I'm really, really thankful for our e-commerce brand.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you guys a status update on kind of where things are now. So we've actually been trying to slow sales down, which sucks because, we obviously want to keep things going as fast as possible. But we launched quite a few products in December, January timeframe, and a lot of those products are actually starting to sell out, which is obviously a bummer for revenue. But one thing that has held true, so over the past several years, right, the coronavirus kind of, took place in China over Chinese New Year. Well, we know from past experience, if we prepare for Chinese New Year, we order an extra 30 to 60 days of inventory, we will have no issues, keeping stock. And that's actually what we've seen, even with the delays, out of China and then also shipping to Amazon for our products that are staples that we've had for, years. Those products, we're not at risk of running out of stock. It's primarily the new things that we're seeing issues with. So that's just kind of a quick update on kind of what's going on with us and how the coronavirus is really affecting things for now. But just to kind of help you guys out a little bit. So the way this, I guess, landscape is kind of shaping up, it's forcing people to be smarter with not just their money, but also like what decisions they make in their business. And what we really focused on and really tried to kind of hone in on are kind of 5 key areas that if you focus on just these key components, your business will continue to grow regardless of what's going on in the marketplace. First, obviously, is going to be product development. So constantly developing new products, which leads into the second one, which is launching products. As Channing mentioned, we've continued to launch products over the years. We have 73 active SKUs or something between 70 and 80 SKUs at the moment. We're constantly launching products, right? The third component is listing optimization. Pretty self-explanatory. You get a product launch, you want it to maintain sales, you need to make sure that it can do so. And the fourth component, which is typically the biggest cash flow issue for a lot of businesses, is Amazon ads. Dialing those in, making sure they're profitable. And then the last piece that we've also focused on is just building our audience. And that's something really we haven't really focused on to this last year very heavily, but it is another key area. If you can control a bunch of eyeballs, then you can tell them to buy things whenever you want, right? Provided you're providing a good high quality product. So just kind of moving forward, like as you guys are building your businesses or trying to or keep things what's the word I'm looking for, lean, focus on those key areas, because that's really what's going to drive your business forward, regardless of what's going on in the world right now.
And have you all adjusted your ads or your listings or any other kind of promotion stuff you have going on right now, different than what you were doing before?
Well, we were in the process of making changes, but we're not deviating from that plan. So for us, you know, again, PPC being or Amazon sponsored products, sponsored brands, all of the different ad platforms on Amazon, it really just comes down to we want to, or for us anyways, we want to spend as much money as we possibly can and break even. So we don't really try to profit on our ads. We want to break even, boost the sales, boost the organic keyword rank. So over the past probably 3 or 4 months now, we've really just been trying to dial that in and not just being a break even across the whole, you know, catalog, but on an individual SKU basis. So we just hired a PPC manager for that. So she's running that, she's dialing that in. So that strategy isn't changing. We are seeing that our actual ad spend is decreasing, but I think that's just kind of the overall marketplace at the present moment. I know as soon as, you know, this whole thing clears up, we're going to see that go back up to what it was. But hopefully it'll be in a more profitable scenario since we'll have a lot of improved campaign and sales history in that regard.
Okay, cool. And then, yeah, I mean, any other advice you have for people that are, I mean, I guess think about a couple different audiences. Like one is like, they're just getting their product live. And then two is maybe they're already like pretty established. Like any other advice you can think of for people right now on or off Amazon?
Sure. A couple things and that I think people are really overlooking right now is, guys, especially if you have a team, if you have employees, talk to them, tell them, you know, that their job is secure, tell them that you're working as hard as you can to make sure that everything that, you know, the business is going through, whether it's up or down, like you are going to protect them. I've seen so many articles of corporations screwing over their employees. Like, let your team know, and you have to mean it. Like, I'm not telling you to lie to them, but you need to let your team know that, you know, they have a secure position with you, they're important to your organization, and that will, you know, go miles in the future if you can do that. The what else did I write down here? Second thing, and this goes for everybody, like be cautious during this time, but don't freeze. Don't stop running your business. You still need to be launching products. You still need to be making moves forward. You may slow those things down, but don't just stop, because if you stop, you're going to start dying, right? So keep launching products, keep developing new products. Like I said, focus on those 5 areas, and you will keep seeing returns come in through that method. And I want to touch on the terms piece too, that David and Dan also talked about. Is this is a great time to negotiate terms. They will definitely be understanding, as they mentioned. So we're renegotiating with every single one of our suppliers to get even better terms than what we had. Just explaining to them, like, look, we need more inventory. We need it quickly. We're going to double up, even though, yes, the world's panicking right now, but we actually need the inventory. So we're going to double up our orders, give us terms, and we can continue to grow together. Because you got to remember too, they need help as well. They just went through, you know, a significant slump. So
that's what I was going to say. I started a new brand, and all of my suppliers have said they're so thankful that I stuck with them through their hard time too. So when I'm asking them questions, they're definitely more willing to help me out, because now we're kind of, you know, facing a few of the things they were, and they're just very understanding.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, one last thing, as far as like Amazon, you know, restricting certain categories from shipping stuff in, just ship your stuff by sea. It'll be cheaper, most likely, unless you're, you know, don't have enough cartons. But if you can ship by sea, this is the best time to do it anyways. You can't get it to Amazon any faster, so you'll save on margin there. So just kind of a short tidbit. And then I guess to Rich's point too, I would just be cautious on switching your FBA listing to FBM. Personally, I'd recommend just creating a variation if you're going to go that route. But the other thing that Rich mentioned is like, or I guess that I'll add on to is, if you don't have a product that's going to do well in this climate, don't go through the hassle of making an FBM listing, right? Because your conversion is going to drop regardless, just because it's not prime. So yeah, that's the last piece on that, I think.
Well, and then I guess kind of last question, do you recommend doing anything with your pricing right now? Changing pricing at all?
I would be careful. We increased our price on a few things, not really as a result of just trying to, you know, price gouge, but like we're literally just going to run out of stock. So we raised the price like $2. Like we're not raising things $10, $20 or anything like that. Just a normal, if we need to slow sales down or we need to increase profitability, we'll increase the price. For those of you that are going to run out of stock, and maybe you're going to run out of stock for 1, 2, 3 months, in that case, it's probably okay to raise your price. You're going to have to relaunch regardless. So, you know, kind of play with that. Again, I'm not advising you price gouge. Don't double your price. I think that's ridiculous personally.
Doesn't look
But
good on your brand either.
no, it doesn't. So yeah, that's my only
Okay.
advice there, I guess.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Well, I guess that's it. Those are the main questions. Really appreciate you all also coming on, taking your time to do this.
Of course. Thanks for having us, Matt.
All right. Thank you. All righty. So our final guest is Andrew. Andrew, if you could attempt to unmute and turn on your video. I see you're unmuted.
Sure. So I just. All right. Can you see me?
Yes, I can. Awesome. How's it going,
Can you hear
Andrew?
me? All
Yep.
right. I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Cool. Doing awesome. Yeah. So hopefully, I think you were given the prompts before, but yeah, first thing is, just a little bit of background so people kind of know where you're coming from.
Sure. Yeah. Just want to say hello to everyone. I don't think I've never been on an ASM webinar before, so I'm like very happy to be here and say hello to everyone. I will also be presenting at SellerCon this summer, so I'm excited for that. I'm Andrew Erickson. I'm a multi-7-figure seller. I'm also one of the leaders inside of Titan. One of the fun stories, so I started on Amazon 5 years ago and built it up and did all that fun stuff that everyone does at this level, right? And the one thing I always like to tell people that's like a fun story of mine is I was an engineer, I guess, in a previous life, like 3 years ago before I went full-time on Amazon. And one thing, we went full-time, my wife and I ended up taking a whole year off from America and spent a year traveling around the world. So we did a full 12 months being digital nomads, kind of doing that like cliche kind of like freedom lifestyle thing. So we ended up hitting 32 countries inside of 12 months. So that was like, it's kind of one of my fun stories of like what Amazon has for possibilities. I'm also the host of the Untitled podcast. I'm iTunes, all that fun stuff. You want to go listen to me for more stuff. I can tell you, so I prepped a few things to talk about. Do you want me to say some of the things I prepped, Matt, or do you want to prompt me in on stuff?
Yeah, please. Yeah, go ahead and jump into it.
Okay, cool. So I just want to say that so I'm not an economist by any means, but my father is. So I ended up talking to him for like 3 hours last night. He's a professor of economics at New Mexico State University, and so we talked about this whole thing, and we talk about business all the time, how to invest, what to do in times of good times and bad times and stuff. He's thinking that he's claiming at least that we'll probably see something like a 10% decline in GDP. GDP is like people buying stuff, basically is GDP. 10% decline in this second quarter. So that's unfortunate for the economy as a whole. But that 10% is not focused on Amazon. It's not focused on one thing in particular. That includes like restaurants. That includes all sorts of stuff. And so I'm guessing that the thing with Amazon is I can't really expect there to be a decline in Amazon since the whole quarantine thing, obviously shipping, we've already talked about that, right? So I'm not really expecting much of a decline on Amazon because there might be a little bit less spending, but Amazon might tick up actually. So I'm actually not planning on sales going down. So far, I haven't really observed any sales going down. We every day is noisy, so I can't say with certainty that we've had a decline in sales, but like basically nothing. We've just been flat in a good way, flat, just same sales every day. So we've been fine so far. But I do have 5 actionable things that I wrote down that would be that I thought would be cool to share. Should I tell those now, Matt?
Yeah, please.
Sure. Okay. Cool. So the 5 actionable things are to reduce overhead. And so overhead's like extra spending on stuff that isn't as necessary. So just cut a few things. Honestly, on my like to-do list, I have probably like a couple $100 in software that I'm not really using to the full extent. I'm going to go through and just cut out a few of those things. So just reduce a little bit of spending, just to hunker down a little bit. So I think that's a really easy actionable thing. The other thing that, again, I'm just parroting what my father said, is that he's predicting what is they call it a V-shaped recession. That means you're going to see a sharp decline, which we've already seen basically if you look at the stock market, whatever, it's declined, but then it's a sharp increase. And the reason why that is they call it pent-up demand. So basically people are kind of hunkered down and they're not spending money. But when the stuff opens back up, they will be spending money. For example, I was supposed to go to a wedding this weekend. I was going to spend, you know, whatever, a couple $1,000, like flying across the country and then spending money on restaurants and everything like that. And that restaurant, we ended up, that wedding ended up getting delayed for 6 months. And so now it's in October. So now that $3,000, you know, whatever, the $20,000 wedding and $20,000 spending from the people, from the guests, that's not happening in March, but it is happening in October. So that's pent up demand. We'll probably see a sharp increase. Now, what does that mean for us? Get ready to do well in the fall. And right now is a good time to prep for that. When we do things, I'm always a big like stay the course and build a plan and keep doing the things that you think are work the system and keep doing the things that should be working. Most of the one thing that's like it's both a pro and a con in this Amazon world is that most of the stuff that you do will take 3, 6, 12 months to see fruition, right? So I mean, you start building a product, talking to suppliers, producing and shipping, we're talking many months, right? So this recession or this little blip down will be weeks or months, and your business isn't weeks or months, your business is months and years and decades. So just be ready for that recovery in the fall. Another thing too, just be mindful, the politicians right now are talking about a stimulus package. They're probably going to inject $1 trillion into the economy just to help this little tick. And one thing they're doing with that is they have not decided yet what they're going to do, but there's 2 big things that are something like this is going to happen. Nothing's been written down, nothing's been actually signed yet. Those 2 big things are just giving straight up money to people. Just hand everyone $1,000 in the whole country. So you can imagine, like, if someone just $1,000 just shows up, like that's going to help, right? Stimulate the economy and stimulate buying and stuff like that. Now, some people will be spending that on a rent, but some people will have guaranteed income. For example, my wife is a school teacher, and they're just saying you're just going to get paid, no work, just get paid for the next like 3 months or so. And so like that $1,000 she'll just probably spend on fun stuff, right? So we can see that, we can expect that. And then the other big thing is that we will be seeing a big push for free, for reduced and free loans, SBA loans. SBA is the Small Business Advantage. It's like basically the branch of the government that helps small businesses. And basically everyone at Amazon's a small business unless you have like 30 employees or something. Well, even 30 employees. I think small business is considered like anything less than 100 employees. So basically everyone on this webinar is probably a small business. And so those loans will be like really cheap or nearly free. They're even talking about doing grants that's just straight up just handing money to small businesses. So like keep an eye out for that, and like just go on the website, the SBA website. I'm wondering if maybe I can find it for you guys, but SBA, you'll find there might be like some grant opportunities. They just hand you, they say, as long as you spend this money on employing people and expanding your business, we're just going to give you money just to help a little bit. Those are 3. The next 2 are just learn. If you have some free time, like spend some time jumping on webinars like this, right? This is perfect. Like spend a little bit of time learning, maybe take an online course, watch more like recorded webinars, whatever. Like now's a good time to like build your base knowledge, right, for stuff. And then my last thing is just stay the course. Like I said before, the thing with stuff like this is that you're not building businesses that are lasting weeks and months. You're building businesses that are lasting years and decades. So always think when you're making decisions on both investing and building and growing and where you're going to put yourself, what puts me in a better spot a year from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now, right? Not what puts me in a better spot next week. So just stay the course.
Awesome, thank you. So we have some people asking, what's the name of your podcast one more time?
Oh, ZonCon Podcast, ZON space CON. It's Amazon Conversations.
Okay, cool. And then are you adjusting your marketing strategy at all now, or do you think you'll be adjusting it a month, 2 months, or however long it takes to kind of get on the other side of this?
We haven't seen any change. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I do have to say, like, I'm looking at the S&P 500 and it's like freaking me out a little bit. I do have to admit that, right? But we haven't seen any change in sales. We haven't seen any change in our engagement on social media. We haven't really seen any change so far. I mean, maybe that will be changing later, but as far as we're seeing now, we're just going to stay the course. And one thing that I can say that makes me a little more confident is that we did, obviously, this virus started in China, and we can see that that virus took basically 3 or 4 weeks of hunkering down, of basically quarantining everyone. And now the virus is over in China. They actually reported they closed down all their temporary hospitals, and they basically back to normal. So we only saw a 2-week delay in production. Whatever, 2 or 3 weeks delay in production. And so it's really, that's what we're kind of expecting here in the States. So we don't have supply issues. We also maintain 6 to 8 weeks of inventory at Amazon. So this little 3-week thing, hiatus on new shipments, that's not affecting us either. We're not seeing sales change. So we're not changing anything.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, I really appreciate it, Andrew. You were very prepared for this, so thank you very much.
One other thing, I made a little quote card. Can you see this?
Yes.
Cool. So Dan literally just said this, Dan just said this, whatever, at the beginning of the webinar, and I thought, oh, I love this. This is cool. In a downturn, there's always opportunity. Learn to dance in the rain. And so he literally said that, and I was like, let me make a quick quote card for Dan. I think that's super cool. I love that quote. And so I think that's the best thing to end with is that little message from Dan.
I guess Dan is super committed. He's literally got it tattooed on his body. So going back.
You always make me smile, mate.
All right, cool. Dan, by the way, I've got a couple things. I've got 5 things for people to go through real quick, and then some other ways just to share some links for different ways we can help people out. And then we can do a little bit of Q&A, but if you've thought of anything or if you see any questions or anything we want to answer, then get those ready, because we've got a little bit of extra time. So as soon as I go through this stuff, I can bring you back on. Yeah, so I just prepared a couple of things, tips that I was thinking of that I think any business should be taking right now. I mean, e-commerce businesses, selling on Amazon, literally any business. So if you know anybody else who runs a business, this stuff is also applicable. Kind of is pretty similar to a lot of the things, our guests were saying on here. They've all built successful businesses, so they know what they're talking about. But yeah, a couple things here. First off is, like they talked about, and, like we were saying, some of the biggest and best businesses were built in hard sort of downturns in the economy, and this is likely going to cause that just because of the restrictions on business and a lot of that sort of thing, and people are getting laid off because nobody can go to restaurants, so this is likely going to cause a bit of a pullback, and historically it'll bounce back sooner rather than later, but still, this is a good opportunity to reduce some of the waste in your business. Fortunately, I sort of go through cycles on this, but try to be more focused on this. We've started doing this in Amazing, actually, a month or 2 ago, and then started doing it pretty much from the beginning of the e-commerce business that I'm involved in, also that got involved at the beginning of last year, and is really reducing a lot of the waste. A lot of this stuff tends to just pile up. And so the best way I know how to do this, which is not going to be advice you're going to get from like a CPA or an accountant or a financial advisor, this has just worked for me over the past 10 years, is I literally, if it's a smaller business, I'll just go in the credit card statements myself, and sometimes I still do that. Or if you have somebody who manages your finances for your business, an accountant or something like that, have them do this, but pull every single expense from the past 90 days. This is money coming on your credit cards. This is money charged directly to your bank account or debit cards or whatever you're using, money charged to PayPal. Those are typically the big ones where you're actually spending money, where people are essentially taking money from you. So pull all of those expenses for the past 90 days, get them in a spreadsheet, Google Sheet, Excel, whatever you want to use. Make sure you have every single one of those in front of you. And I typically recommend, sorting it by the vendor, whoever it is that's charging you money, so you can see all the money that's coming out of your business. Now, if you run stuff still through your personal accounts, pull those also. This is a good exercise, honestly, to go through with your personal side too, not just your business, because it's all related. So the first thing is pull all of those expenses from the past 90 days. 90 days is good because it allows you to see a lot of recurring charges, and it makes sure that you don't just miss something that, for whatever reason, billed you 45 days ago or 60 days ago and hasn't charged you recently, but is going to charge you again. So pull all of those expenses and then make a list of every opportunity to reduce waste. You know, this is software subscriptions is a big one. And we're part owners in a software business, but don't pay for it if you're not getting value from it. It doesn't mean you cancel everything and it's going to kill your business, but cancel the stuff you're not getting value from. So software subscriptions are a big one because the problem with them is they bill you every single month and then you forget they even exist. For example, in the e-commerce business, just went through those things. And the worst thing is when you have multiple people spending money. This is where it gets really out of hand. If you've got, you know, a husband and a wife or a business partner, employees or whoever that's also able to charge money, then a lot of the times you forget about this stuff. We're able to cancel, you know, a few $100 worth of stuff just like that the other day that we didn't even realize we were still getting charged for in the e-commerce business. Now, in Amazing, it's a little bit bigger of a business. And so that business, every time we do this, I regularly find, you know, probably, let me think, last time I did it was like $7,000 worth of charges a month, like regularly $60,000 to $100,000 of charges a year of stuff that we're just either not using or can be reduced. And a lot of times, you know, software subscriptions, you'll ramp up the plans and then you may still want to use the tool, but you can pare all that down and it's just money in your pocket. Because the thing is, the thing we always think about, most of us as business owners, as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we're kind of salespeople too, and we love the marketing side and growing. But if say your business makes a 10% profit, if you were to cut $100 off of your expenses, that goes directly to your bottom line. That's the equivalent of producing an extra $1,000 in sales, 10 times the amount. So if you were to produce, if you were to cut $100 off per month, for example, in a recurring charge, that's the same as producing an extra $1,000 in sales every single month that you don't have to go out there and get. You'd have to do nothing for because you just reduced that waste from your business. Also combining software. Look at software tools out there, especially for Amazon. There's a lot of tools. We think the one that, you know, we're partners in, Managed by Stats, provides a lot of value that a lot of these tools can provide, but maybe you find a better solution. Either way, look for tools that you can possibly combine as another opportunity rather than paying for separate ones. Like I said, downgrading your plan is another one. Negotiating with your supplier is huge. I mean, that can be like basically a permanent discount you lock in. And especially now, if you're planning on ordering more in the future, like everyone said, not just because of where the economy is, but if you plan on ordering more, that's a perfect, easy way to negotiate with your supplier. And a couple of different negotiation strategies. One is the typical one, whereas you go find somebody else that can also supply the same product. You should constantly be getting new bids on your product, probably at least once a quarter. Get a new bid on your supplier and to see if you can get a discount. What we found with credit card processors for us, for example, I like our credit card processor, but every time we do that, we go get a new bid from somebody, we're able to take that because they always say they can reduce it. And so we are able to take that to our existing credit card processor and get a reduction in fees. And that's just money that hits our bottom line every single month. And so with your product supplier or packaging supplier or freight forwarder, you should constantly be going out there and getting bids on that stuff. And if they're seeing any slowdowns in business, this is the perfect time to do that. Say, hey, you know, we love you all, but we're not going to be able to keep using you if we can save, you know, $5,000 a year or whatever it is over here with this other person. So renegotiating with supplier is a great one. And then also, if you have any inventory that's just not moving, a good possible solution now, if this is a product you don't want to sell anymore, or even if it is the one that you want to keep selling, but you want to generate additional cash flow, is I know some businesses hate offering discounts. I'm not of that opinion. In the businesses I'm involved in, I'm more than happy to offer discounts. But the part where discounts become permanent, where people just expect those or they don't buy, is where you don't have a reason for offering them. So if you give people a reason for the discount, then it kind of makes sense, which is why everyone runs Black Friday sales, Christmas sales, that kind of thing. I think you could do the same thing right now. You don't have to literally do something like the coronavirus sale. I think that'll be a little too upfront for people, but it can be, you know, a seasonal sale. It can be something around a holiday right now where people kind of are making the connection that it's tied into what's going on right now, but it's kind of separated from it. So now is an opportunity to run a discount if you want to generate additional cash, additional income, or get rid of other inventory without it feeling like a permanent thing that's going to reduce the value of your product. So that's some opportunities to reduce a little bit of waste. Review conversion rates and improve performance there first. A lot of times we want to stack additional traffic on the business, increase sales, increase ads, you know, what's happening on Facebook ads, are CPMs going up or down, you know, with the stuff going on right now. I'm hearing a million different opinions. Look at your conversion rates first, like a few people mentioned here, and improve performance there. I mean, that's going to be the most cost efficient way to increase sales. If you can literally just get a bump in conversion rates by changing some copy or some images, that's going to be a great way to increase sales as opposed to spending more on ads and hoping that converts into extra business. 4th, change your messaging. I kept asking a lot of people today if they were changing their messaging, and it may be an opportunity depending where you use this. And I don't, once again, recommend going directly after coronavirus. I think it's potentially unethical depending on how you look at it, but I think also it's not very tasteful and it's probably not supportive of your brand long term. However, with everything going on right now, people's minds are in a different state. They aren't, when the economy is going great and there's 3% unemployment and all that kind of stuff, everyone's going to respond to stuff that's more, opportunistic, or like people are talking about luxury related products and lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. And that's just not where people's heads are at right now. People may respond to more stuff related to, hey, you can use this at your house, you can do this at home, anything else related to, supplies. If you're having supply issues, let people know. That can also provide an increase in sales. And so think about where the market is at today, and don't be afraid to adjust your messaging, because you may have written all the copy for your Amazon product listings or your websites or your ads based on, psychology that was more in place 6 months ago or a year ago. Things have changed now, and there's no reason why your messaging shouldn't change to sort of fit the current situation without taking advantage of it. But it's just updating with where the world is at today. And then you can always update it, because things 6 months from now will be different also, and update it then too if you want maximum conversion rates, maximum relevance for your audience. Last thing is some people talked about communicating with employees. Great advice, Justin mentioned that. Also communicate with your customers. Now's the time to give extra value. A perfect example of this is there's a jiu-jitsu website out there that has all these online courses. They did a couple free trainings. One is like workouts you can do from your house, that they did a completely free course that they would normally charge for. The guy who owns the site also did like a coupon where you're able to get one of his courses for free. Now, if you're not selling a digital product, you may not have the same freedom, but if there's anything else you can do to give to your customers right now that maybe doesn't cost you a ton of money, but will be valuable to them, free information, free advice, encouragement, positivity, any of that kind of stuff, or if you can do something discounted or free on the product side, it's a great time to build goodwill with your customers right now when their mind may be completely distracted. If you're the person out there who's not just giving the 7,000th, hey, we're trying hard while stuff is going on, we've all received those emails, but if you actually give them something valuable, I mean, this is a perfect example. Like, we're not trying to get anything out of this. We just wanted to let you all, try to give you all some good information, some good perspective, when people need it most. And so now is a great time to do that, because they'll remember that later, where they may be in a position of need and you're not. Now is a good time to go out there and give them some good value. So those are 5 things I recommend every business do right now. And then, we've got a couple ways where we can help. A couple of these are completely free. Other of them are just stuff that we happen to offer. Now, like I said, the whole point of this is we didn't do this to make it a sales pitch or any of that kind of stuff. So don't use any of this stuff if you don't want to. Focus on increasing your business, focus on growing your business, reducing waste. But if you find any of this stuff valuable, then go for it. So one thing is 100% free is we can do a free listing audit. So we decided to do this just to help people out. We know increasing conversion rates on listings is one of the biggest opportunities we've seen from our students, where somehow, maybe they're not great at copywriting, or maybe they don't understand some of the conversion stuff, or maybe they just need outside perspective. We've seen tons of opportunities here. So we're taking some of our team members and we're literally doing 100% free listing audits. So if you go to this URL, amazingwebinars.com/listing, it'll take you over to a little type form. And we've already received something like 250 submissions. And so we're working our way through those right now. I'll probably end up doing some of them myself. We've got some of the team members that have sold millions on Amazon that are doing them. Mike McClary is involved, also sort of leading the effort. And this is just one way for us to kind of give back to people to help you increase conversion rate while you may, sort of be experiencing some uncertainty and that kind of thing right now. So free Amazon listing audit, one way we can help. Other thing is a document that I started putting together kind of before all this was going on. But it's a Google Doc that is based on a book that I read that I found super valuable. It's a lot of stuff we've used in our business, but I wanted to create a super simple, short way that has a lot of different lists and ideas of ways for people to increase their profit. And I think, honestly, if you were to apply everything in this document to your business, and we're going to keep building on it, which is why I'm linking you to a Google Doc instead of a PDF that you should be able to access from anywhere with no login, and you can download a copy to your computer. But this thing is going to change. We are going to keep adding stuff to it. But I think if you were to literally implement all of that stuff in your business right now, like the title says on the document, you could double your profit in 90 days. And that's dollar profit, not just percentage profit. So if you go to amazingwebinars.com/double, that's another sort of free resource that you can go check out, download a copy, implement that stuff in your business. It talks about some of the things that I talked about, with reviewing your expenses, analyzing subscriptions, all that sort of stuff. So that's another thing that hopefully helps you out. Now, we have a partnership with a fulfillment company, and we're basically investors. We own a percentage of the business. But they mentioned yesterday that they are able to store inventory for people. They're not, they don't have Prime fulfilled or seller fulfilled Prime, I guess. And so, but they can ship and hold inventory, and they do ship out to customers. Very reliable, great systems. We use them to ship out all of our books, for example. In my e-commerce business, I would use them, but it's our suppliers actually do the shipping for us. So anyway, so these guys will ship and store your inventory. So they're called Falcon Fulfillment. We don't really directly get anything from referring or anything like that, but it's just a good resource if you need a good third-party fulfillment company to temporarily or maybe permanently hold inventory for you before it gets to Amazon FBA. Also, if you're looking for a new product, now this is a paid service we offer. Like I said, use it if you want, don't if it doesn't make sense for you. If you're looking for a new product to source, if you go to amazingwebinars.com/product, we do have a team in place that can help you find another product to sell. If you're busy, if you're taking care of things in your business and personal life, and you've got some extra cash and you want somebody else to do some of that for you, we can absolutely help. Related to that, we also have a new service that, once again, this is just if you find it valuable in your business, use it. If not, don't use it. It's called brand expansion. And so we found from talking with a lot of members that one of the things that they have the most trouble with is figuring out what product to sell next, because it takes a ton of work to do all the research, contact suppliers, research keywords, all that sort of stuff. So it's a ton of work and time, and it kind of stops people from growing. Justin and Channing talked a lot about one of their main strategies for growth, which they've grown extremely rapidly, is adding more products to sell. And so we'll basically help you lay out an entire product catalog, showing you all the opportunities you're not getting into yet that are related to your existing brand. So this isn't just to find a new product in any new brand. This is specifically to expand your existing brand. So if you're interested, we also offer that. And last thing is maybe I'll let Dan talk about this. This isn't meant to be a sales pitch for this or whatever, but if you want more on the ground information from what's happening on with 7-figure and 8-figure Amazon sellers, we've recently partnered with the Titan Network, and so Dan is one of the leaders of that. And then a lot of the people you talk to today are also leaders within that organization, sharing their knowledge, helping people. It's a really awesome group. And so if you go to amazingwebinars.com/Titan, it's free to apply, and then there's just a monthly fee to stay a member. Dan can maybe tell you a little bit about that, but if you really want to get involved and find more, on a daily basis, other members and sellers you can talk to, that's a great resource for you. So now we can get into some questions, but I'll let Dan come back on and maybe explain a little bit about Titan, and also if he's seen any questions or any other things he wants to share.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Matt. So yeah, firstly, guys, before I get into it, jump into the Q&A box, the chat box, drop your questions in there. And if our guests are around as well, in a second, I might ask you to come back on because there's some really good questions here, and I think we could get a couple of perspectives that would really help everyone here. So Titan Network, guys, was created by sellers for sellers. We saw a need in the industry to professionally facilitate the ongoing innovation, strategy, technical developments in the industry to move faster in our businesses. Also, this business is lonely, so we wanted to surround ourselves with like-minded sellers who can really push our thinking and push our ability forward in the business. What that's resulted in is a sort of exclusive invite-only network of sellers known as Titan Network. And within Titan Network, we have 3 groups. So Titan 1, 2, and 3, which means that you're serviced at your level and surrounded by people at the same points in the journey, but you've still got access to fellow Titans that are ahead of you in the game. So everything from live masterclass trainings like the one we hosted earlier this week, maybe you saw that, to a complete sourcing team out in China. With your group, you meet every Wednesday on the live Titan huddles in a very mastermind environment. We've got an accountability program where we pair you with 2 or 3 fellow sellers and you hold each other accountable week in, week out. But ultimately, what Titan gives you is complete clarity on the decision you need to make next. And I think now more than ever in this industry, our motto is together we are stronger, and I think that's more powerful now than ever as we navigate these waters together. I'm very comfortable knowing that my fellow Titans and everyone inside of our community we're pulling together, we're thinking together, and we're pushing in the right direction. So we're not wasting time figuring stuff out on our own, or sitting here in fear deciding on whether to pull the trigger on a product, like I'm seeing in some of the questions. You know, Tony Robbins talks about the fastest way to achieve success is find someone who's done it before and do what they did, and that's everything Titan is about. So if you did want to learn more about Titan Network and you wanted to apply for Titan Network, join the pack that's leading the industry, and learn exactly what you need to be doing next in your business to flourish and prosper during this time, go to amazingbwebinars.com/Titan. So let's jump into the Q&A here. I've sort of put some red flags, the little priority stickers on some of the questions. And I think the main theme of the questions here, especially for the newer guys and girls starting out, is should I be pulling the trigger on the product I was about to order from China? And if any of the guests are still around and want to sort of jump on the mic and on the camera, I think this would be a really good discussion point to bring up here, around different categories and whether you should be continuing. So Matt, earlier in this, I mean, everyone's come off the same sort of theme here. Use the data, use the information that Amazon's giving us about sort of a macro view of what's happening on Amazon in terms of the categories we're allowed to ship into, the categories that where volume's up. Obviously, unfortunately, categories like travel is going to be down. But Andrew, let me put the question to you. What's your sort of take on someone's sort of researched a product, they're about to pull the trigger, maybe they've even got it half in development in China. What's your take on that? And then I'll give my perspective.
So I'll tell you what I'm doing. Okay. So we are absolutely continuing development. We currently have, we're waiting for our very last samples for 3 new products right now. And as soon as those samples, I'm literally like answering emails right now to like set the shipping on it, right? As soon as that, we always, make sure the samples are good, right? We get those samples and we're placing that order. Our goal is to get that order placed by the end of March, right? So we are purchasing still, and we're expanding still. We're still doing development, and we have 5 more products in the works right now that we're generally takes us about 6 months to go from idea to launch. And so like we're in that process. We're right in the middle of when we're about to place an order that'll be launching in probably 2.5 months, and then we have other stuff that's in the pipeline that will be launching in about 6 months from now. So for me, yes, we're still going, we're still growing, we're still launching. My mantra, my mantra is ABL, always be launching, always be launching, always be launching. So just add more stuff, get more stuff. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, so to directly answer the question, guys, I think it's category specific. Now, the data right now out of the tools is going to be a bit skewed because depending on where you are in the world, if you're looking at the US market, for instance, they're probably a bit ahead of where we are in the UK in the current lockdown, and sort of slowly things are shutting down. But I believe we're in this like panic buying stage. So the data right now during your product research is going to be a bit more skewed. So how I would handle that is look back historically before this panic buying period, and then maybe just give it a couple of weeks before making the final decision, to wait for this sort of panic trend to die off a little bit. And then going back to what David and Leah were saying, which was such a brilliant point around Amazon are telling us which categories are needed right now. Like, use the buying trends and what Amazon's allowing to sell in the next couple of weeks and the necessities to inform your product prioritization. So if you were going to go into a travel category, that's probably not a smart idea right now. It's probably not good thinking to start launching travel products. But maybe you were looking at sports products. Well, instead of going for something that might have been like a gym-based youth sports product, look at like home gym type equipment, your mats, all your fitness accessories, your hands, your skipping ropes, all that sort of stuff. Logic would say, given the fact that gyms are on lockdown and continue to be, and even as this period of whatever it's going to be, the UK is saying 12 weeks, is going to slow down, confidence in going out is going to take a bit of ramping up again. So we know for a fact that things like sports goods are sort of evergreen products that are always going to be in demand, whether this is here or not. It's a home-based product, it's an outside-based product. Home and kitchen, whilst it's currently locked down a little bit of it, it's going to be back open by April 5th. The necessities within that category is, regardless of whether coronavirus or a pandemic or a financial crisis is here, people need utilities for their kitchen. So I think you just have to make a smart decision. Now, to the point of, do I place the order or not? I would absolutely place the order, providing the numbers match up and economically and with what's happening in the market right now, it makes sense, providing it's not travel products, for instance, right now. I would definitely be pushing that, and then using this opportunity, as Justin and David and Leah were talking about, to renegotiate those terms, press the suppliers on, hey, look, I want to place an order with you during these hard times. This is my forecast for the year, and sort of give them some hope around what you'll be placing, but you're going to have to work with me because times are uncertain. You need the business as much as I need these terms and this price. So really use this as opportunity. If you've already agreed an order, then this would be a good time to try and renegotiate that order and say, hey, look, I know we agreed on this price, but given the current market conditions and the way the world's going, I think we need to reassess this. Are you open to doing that? And ideally, they're going to turn around and go, well, yes, I still want the order because China's trying to pick itself up off the ground right now, and they'll be doing that. So with all those questions around that, I think you have to be smart, use the data in front of you, come back to thinking accurately, and then if it makes sense, it's aligned with the current market conditions, you know it's an evergreen product that's going to sell, and then the numbers are right, you've got your return on investment, you've got your margin, then don't sit here in panic and in fear, because there's probably 20 questions in this chat box. Everyone's just sat there and they're frozen in fear. And as Justin said, don't freeze. You've got to push as a business leader, a business owner, and a leader, and an entrepreneur. You have to push through that and continue to move forward. So yes is the answer.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, I remember back in 2008 when we had the financial crisis, like people that jumped into the I don't want to say capitalize on people's fear, but people that served a market who was really concerned about what was going to happen in the world and in the economies and, with their local government, and they were sort of tapping into that whole vein. Like those businesses, they ran for probably 5-6 years before at some point people were like, well, I think things are probably going to be okay. But then here we are again, where people are going to have, a lot of people will kind of go back to like life as normal, but then other people this will kind of be a permanent or semi-permanent kind of like scar for them, where they're remembering that, whether it's for travel stuff or maybe it's cleanliness or any of that kind of stuff. Like some of this will be lasting for some segment of the market. And so like Dan was talking about, like if you want to prioritize now like a home-based gym product instead of a going to a gym product, like you can go even further. And like if you're able to add some extra element or market some extra element like antimicrobial or something like that that kind of helps you stand out versus everyone else in there, but it's kind of playing to where the market is at now. That's another opportunity.
I think
can I add on that?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Matt. And one thing I want to just tell is I've talked to a few people who were a little anxious or a little like worried about making money on this, like as if they're like profiting off the loss of other people. And I want to say, as long as you're not lying, cheating, and stealing to make money, do not lie about selling like a Corona cure or something like that. Like, don't lie about stuff. But if you're providing products that are the products and services that people want and that they're in high demand, it's absolutely fine to make a profit off of that. That's why capitalism is beautiful and amazing. You can make profits by providing goods and services to people that they want and need.
Yeah, to that point, the economy needs the commerce. The economy needs money to be transacted and to be moved. That's what keeps the economy going round. The economy needs people like us serving the needs of shoppers and consumers to keep that money going. David, Leah, thanks for joining. You guys, oh, you're a bit quiet. Let's unmute you. Matt, if it's okay, we've got time, haven't we? It'd be cool to get David and Leah's sort of perspective on this, because they touched on a really good point around sort of using the data to read the market in product selection.
Yeah, they look unmuted to me. David or Leah, can you say something?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah,
so we just thought we would jump in just in case there was any questions like directed towards us or whatever. So
yeah, another category I was thinking about is just looking at some trends is like, as people are reacting to these things that are happening in the world right now, you are, without going directly after like the doomsday prepper market, you are going to see people, Dan, you were talking about the sports and outdoor, you are going to see more people that are going to be thinking about, how can I be prepared, in case something worse happens, because we'll recover from this, but people are going to be thinking about that down the road. That's how our brains work. We're wired for survival. So even going into categories like, archery or things that you would find at like Cabela's, go out to you can't go out right now, but look at like Cabela's online or Dick's Sporting Goods or some of these things where people are out and they're searching for the kind of the things where they're going to be a little bit more prepared, without being totally over the top, preparing for the worst.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So there's more questions around sort of like, I'm trying to slow my sales down, conversion rates. There's really only 3 or 4 different groups of questions here. So I'm seeing questions like, will increasing price to slow my sales reduce my conversion rate, and what impacts that will have? Now, I'm a big believer in, if you know you're going to run out of stock, like, you know you're going to run out of inventory, and even if you slow your increase your price to try and slow your sales, you're still going to go out. I think that whole thing's a myth, because you're going to leave the algorithm on a high BSR, whereas you want to leave the algorithm on the lowest BSR possible, so that you come back in at a low point. So if you know that you're gonna run out and there's no way of stopping that inevitability, I would say just sell through it. I wouldn't be increasing price to slow down unless you know you can see through the end. Now, if you can slow down sales and you're going to be able to get your inventory in, remain in stock, then yes, that's a strategy. Now, with the conversion rate piece, there was a question around turning off advertising. Just remember that conversion kind of drives the flywheel on Amazon. So a better conversion means more velocity, more visibility, more ranking, more sales, better PPC performance, and the whole thing goes round. So typically what you'll see is, if you do start seeing that conversion rate drop, you've got to find that balance, because for a continued amount of time of a conversion rate drop, you're going to see those rankings decline, and then you've got to try and re-rank and regain those rankings. So increasing the price isn't always the answer, because there are loads of cons to it, and if you're going to run out of stock, then you just want to go out on a high, because you want to come in at a decent point.
So I agree with that mostly. Just want to add one little caveat: do check the stock of your competition. There's there's software that does it for you. You can also do the 999 trick. If you just add 999 to your cart, you can see how many units the other person has. You can Google it if you don't know what I'm talking about. You can look at your competition, see how much stock they have, and if they're super low, like, you might want to change your strategy a little bit.
Yeah. I've got a question here. This is a brand new question. Matt, what do you reckon? I have $30,000 to build a business on Amazon. Can I build a multi-million-dollar business?
We've had a lot of people who have started with way less. A couple of them are looking at you right now. I believe they started like $500 in initial inventory, and they did pretty well for themselves.
Yeah. I agree. That's a good budget to work with. And one thing I will say, I was getting kind of excited when Matt was sharing some of his strategies to reduce spend and operate more lean with your team, with your business, because that is exactly the strategy, one of the strategies that we use when we get ready to sell a business, right? We're combing through our P&Ls, we're combing through our expenses, and we're looking at ways that we can reduce spend, get rid of software we're not using, get rid of services that we're not using. So that is a great way to not only prepare your business for down economic times, but also prepare your business to sell. And one thing, as you guys know, we already talked about, we've got 2 brands that are for sale right now. We have multiple buyers that are ready to put in offers. One of the things that was holding it up is our businesses were getting pre-approved for SBA loans. Well, we just got an email from our broker this week that he's like, hey, the SBA just got flooded with cash. So you've got all these people that are looking to buy businesses, and the SBA is going to be, loosening the purse strings for buyers to get in there and get these SBA loans to purchase Amazon businesses like yours. So this is a really exciting time. If you can have a long-term vision, you can actually position yourself to where you can possibly sell your business at the end of this year, sell your business in the first quarter of 2021. So if you can have a long-term vision, educate yourself, this could be like a really great opportunity for you to generate some wealth during this time.
Yeah, one of the things is we get people quite often that are coming to us that have a decent chunk of money. They want to start a business, like e-commerce business. I wouldn't spend it all up front. Like, I would start with maybe like a maximum. If you have 30 grand, start with maybe a maximum of like 10 grand. And that's like all in inventory, everything else. And then, because you could make a mistake on your first product, could be on the product itself or the branding or anything else. And so, like, let yourself get that learning lesson the first time, and then you've still got more cash to be able to do additional products or new products or change the product or change the marketing or whatever. So if you're spending more than like 10 grand or so in initial inventory, which a lot of people, they start with $500, more typical is like a couple $1,000. But if you're spending more than like 5-10 grand, then you're probably taking like an unnecessary risk up front in this kind of business anyways.
Yeah, definitely that. I mean, for the guys and girls on the call just starting out, the first product is always that learner product. Like you're going to see success with that product, but you definitely learn from doing. That's, I mean, it's called adult learning theory. That's what we do. So if you're coming out the gates with a $30,000 budget, you definitely want to be sort of spreading your bets in terms of distributing that across opportunities for sure. Other questions around sort of specific to inbound shipments, and I don't have the answer to this to hand, but the condition of ports in America, have you guys got any input or insight into that? Sort of ports still accepting the shipments in, any disruption in like states of California? Have you guys shipped anything through recently?
We saw some communication breakdown while China was shut down, you know, for that 2 or 3 weeks that they were between the Chinese agents and the U.S. agents, where they weren't able to communicate with each other effectively. And that cost us some fees at the ports as well, and stuff, because the containers sat there and we didn't know that they were there. And so that's really, we haven't heard anything about any certain ports that are having difficulty, and we have a shipment on the water right now that should be arriving in about a week or two, and things too. So and we haven't seen any issues.
We haven't been notified of any delays.
No, we haven't either.
That time, everything seems to have resolved.
No, it's great. It's great. And then there's a question here around the categories that are on lockdown right now, like toys and games. Do we foresee an increase in them when they open up? Now, my answer, logic would say yes. Like, I know my wife is pulling her hair out right now, going, damn, what are we going to do for 6 weeks with our 2 very young children at home 24 hours a day? I know for the first thing we've been doing is buying additional books and toys and that sort of stuff. So logic would say yes. I mean, predicting these categories right now in times of uncertainty like this is very difficult. But I think if we use common sense in approaching these sort of questions and decisions, generally we're going to get it right. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like Michael's right now, I just got an email from them this morning, and they're like, hey, if you want to buy craft kits, you can order it online and pick it up in the parking lot, you know? So even though that might not be an obvious trend for a product that you would want to launch, it does show you that as we see more kids at home, education happening at home, you know, that could be a great opportunity for you to expand into that market.
Yeah, exactly. So Matt, I mean, all the questions around product research, do I pull the trigger right now? I think we've covered that. How to look at PPC, we've covered that in terms of what will it do to my conversion. And I think it always comes back to just tracking the data. I'm a big believer in tracking the data daily. That's covered quite heavily in ASM 11. Because then you've got that finger on the pulse and you can make the right decisions in your company. And if you're just looking at the market now as starting out for a product, then you've just got to listen to the industry. You've got to listen to the market, look at what people are buying, stick away from the stuff that's probably a bit seasonal and a bit restricted right now, stick to the sort of constants. And I don't think you can go far wrong, can you?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, one of the questions I see here that's like, once again, like we've covered a lot of stuff like you mentioned, is like, you know, kind of handling some of like the irrational fears that people may have. And, you know, this person, John, I mean, thank you for speaking up. There's probably other people thinking the same thing. He's basically saying like, going forward, like I want to do this business, but I don't want to have any products made in China. I want them from basically other countries. You know, China is going to be scorned once this is all over. And it's like, it's understandable to see where you're coming from. But I mean, there's been like Amazon, for example, when Amazon, there was that Wall Street Journal article that came out that said Amazon was the world's worst place to work, and they treated everyone terribly and stuff. And they're like, oh, you know, I can't sell on Amazon now because then like everyone's going to hate Amazon and stop buying from there. These people adjust, you know, whether it's a country or whether it's a business or whatever. And there's so much infrastructure built up in China or on Amazon, however you're looking at it, that stuff kind of stuff is not going to change overnight. Like, I mean, maybe long term, like people, I mean, look at Apple. I mean, their like entire business with tariffs and everything like that has been kind of at risk because they put all their eggs in one basket with China manufacturing. So maybe long term, they're going to start trying to diversify to other countries so they're not so dependent on one place. Same thing with everybody selling products, but that's a thing that's going to take decades to happen. And so if you're just trying to build a business to, you know, make a few $1 million or something like that over the next 5 years, then that's likely not going to be a thing for you to worry about whatsoever. It's not going to be that fast of a change if it ever does happen. So I think, to me, in my opinion anyways, based on what I've seen and what I've learned and what other people have experienced, that is kind of more of a irrational fear rather than something that's actually going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, Matt. Inside of Titan, we've got Titan sourcing, as you know, with agents across the whole of Asia, so Thailand, India, Vietnam, and we've definitely seen an increase in sourcing requests in those countries as a result, not just immediately now because of the coronavirus, but I think there's been a kind of a trend in the last 12 months towards looking at other markets. And what we find, and I know, Andrew, you source in some of these markets, but based for the majority of where people are looking to the products they're looking to sell on Amazon, whilst yes, you can go to these other markets, they often don't have the infrastructure or they don't have the volume to be able to compete with the pricing in China. So whilst it's a nice idea, and yes, there are definitely opportunities in those markets, I'm not saying they're not, for the most part, people end up doing a big loop back to China because they just can't get the price where they need it to be able to compete and make this business work on Amazon. And as much as the fear factor right now is driving people towards that thought, and they want to sort of future proof, and they definitely want to diversify, cash is king, money rules the world. And I think this business is about margin, this business is about return on investment and making sure you've got those ratios in place. And China is the one that, for at least the next decade, is the one that's leading the charge in terms of their capability and capacity to be able to produce that at the price they're producing it. Do you agree?
Yeah, so if I want to add a little bit to that, so I completely agree with you guys, and like Matt said earlier about going forward with products, like I'm a big believer in being data led, like let the numbers speak to you. Don't like necessarily use like the headlines, yesterday's headlines, or like your deep down fears. Use logic and numbers to make decisions. And one thing I've tried to get out of China, not because I hate it, I just want to diversify, right? So 99% of our production happens in China. We are starting production in Vietnam now, only because we're not replacing Chinese production. We are just adding on that country, right? Not replacing, but adding, right? And just for a little bit of diversification, but we produce in Mexico, Thailand, lots of places in China, and then now we're starting in Vietnam. It's hard, man. Like outside of China, it sucks. Like what Dan said, the infrastructure isn't there. They don't have Alibaba, like they don't have all these different sources. Like you have to call people like and ask for quotes and stuff. You have to like know a guy who knows a guy. I was like, oh man, this sucks. And so like I live in Southern California, right on the Mexican-American border, and like I go down to Mexico all the time. And I've tried to get production done in Mexico. We have products that can be produced in Mexico. I know people in the community. I know a guy who knows a guy, and I have done stuff in Mexico. It's still difficult. China is still the world's leader. It's still the world factory, whether, you know, and it's going to be for the next 1 year, well, in the next decade for sure. It's going to be the world's factory.
Well, I think there's no doubt that the tariffs are definitely having an impact. You're having it's going to force the hand of some of these countries like Vietnam and India to grow. You see the president going over and visiting India, and I think a lot of that is a signal that they want a closer relationship with India, so we don't have so much dependence on China. So I think you'll see a lot of these markets really taking off and them improving, like you said, like, you know, having to call them and things. You'll see a lot of growth. It's just not quite there yet. Right now, for one of our brands, you know, tariffs really kind of hurt the margins. So we're holding on to that brand and not selling it until next year, really just because we're going to source that in Vietnam or India, one of those countries, and to avoid the tariffs to get the margins up more so we can get a higher multiple on that business when we sell it. And so I think you'll see a lot more people doing that, and there'll be that'll increase the comfort level of doing business with those countries as well.
And I would just say really quickly to speak to John directly and other people that have this fear, listen, this is your business. If you don't want to source your products in China, don't source them in China. We have multi-million-dollar brands. We have one brand that'll do probably around 3 million this year. None of the products are from China. We have another brand where we have everything put together in the US. None of the products, or most of the product is not from China. If you don't feel comfortable with that, get creative. Find different categories where you can sell products that are made in the USA, made in Canada, made in Mexico. You don't have to go to China. There are other opportunities to sell products that don't come from China. So you have to do what you're comfortable with. If you're really committed to building out your brand, get creative and find different ways that you can source stuff that doesn't come from China if that's what you want.
I wanted to touch on what you were saying a minute ago too, like these other countries, you might find a better price in China, But if you factor in the tariffs, it really might not be that much of a difference.
Yeah, that's interesting point.
All right, well, yeah, thanks everybody. I think we're about out of time here, but yeah, thank you to our guests, David and Leah and Andrew, and then Justin and Channing, who I think had to jump off a little bit ago, and thanks Dan, and then Rich before his internet jumped off. So thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks everyone who attended here. Lots of great questions, and we're gonna try to post a replay of this, hopefully in the next, or at least by the end of today, if we can, on our YouTube channel. And like I said, if you just look on YouTube, Amazing.com, you'll find our channel super easy. So we'll try to post a replay of this there. Most of you are probably Amazing Selling Machine members, so if you have any follow-up questions, go inside one of the Facebook groups, go inside the community platform. We're more than happy to answer questions about this stuff. If you have any questions, concerns, any of that kind of stuff, we are definitely here for you. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great weekend, likely at your house, like a lot of us. Great having you here, and we'll see you soon. Thanks everybody.
All
See you
right,
guys.
thanks
Bye, guys.
guys. Bye.
Bye.